Hello, my name is João Cartaxo. I work as an external consultant for the European Commission as the Scrum Master for LEOS team, and I will be presenting to you today LEOS 3.1.0. This presentation will be slightly different than last year's when I presented LEOS 3.0. This demo will have a guiding thread to present LEOS to the audience that is not acquainted with the tool yet. But during the presentation, and especially on the most relevant points, I will highlight the comparison between the previous version and the current version, so that you just don't need to take my word for it and you see for yourself what the changes really are. So without further ado, let's get started and jump right into it. When you open LEOS, you are taken to the repository browser, which is the landing page of the application, and is where all the proposals that you are part of as a drafter are listed. And you can find here on the left-hand side the filters. You can also search by name of the proposal here on top, and on the right-hand side you have a button called Create Proposal, which enables you to open the wizard and select from a template, a predefined template, a new proposal to start drafting. These proposals are based on XML in the format of AKN4EU, which is a specification of Akomontoso. And when you select the proposal that you wish to start drafting, you click on Next, you pre-fill some metadata, for example, presentation of LEOS 3.1.0, and you click on Create. What is happening behind the scenes is that all the files related to this template are being instantiated, and you have a new entry on your list with your proposal. If you want to open it, you can simply click on the card directly or on the Open button, and you will be taken to the proposal viewer. When you open a proposal, you are taken to the proposal viewer screen. And on this screen, you can manage your entire proposal. And as you can see, you have here two files already present, the explanatory memorandum and the legal act, which are the files that are defined on the template that we chose when we created our proposal, if you recall, SG023. But from this point onwards, I can start adding further files to my proposal, for example, annexes, and I can add as many accesses as I want. And on top of the screen, and just as in LEOS 3.0, you have the possibility to export to PDF. You have the possibility to download the LEC package containing all the XML files of the files that are comprised in this proposal. You have the possibility to delete the entire proposal. And on the right side, we have here the milestones list, which is in everything equal to what was present already in LEOS 3.0, and that I will be summarizing later on this presentation. And on the right side, and just as before, you have the management of collaborators. This is, in terms of UI, very similar to what we had in LEOS 3.0, but there is a small difference that makes a huge impact, which is now we have the possibility to add users to add collaborators that belong to more than one entity. What do I mean by this? Imagine that I want to add a user called demo user, and you can see that I have this user representing two different entities, CNET and DGT. On LEOS 3.0, I was not even able to select the entity that I wanted. The system would select the first one that it would find and select that one as by default. And this was like this because it was very rare the cases where a user belongs to more than one entity. But on LEOS 3.1, we already support the possibility to have more than one entity. So at this point, I can choose to select the profile of demo user representing DGT, and he will be present on my proposal, just as before in LEOS 3.0, with one of three roles. He can be either an author, which means that he can do everything over this proposal, inclusively adding other collaborators to it. Or I can make him a contributor, which means that he will be able to edit the document, view and edit the document. You will be able to interact with it also with annotations, which I will be explaining later on. And that is it. Or I can make him a reviewer, which means that he will be only able to interact with the document through annotations. So for now, let's add demo user as a reviewer, and let's open the legal act. When we open the legal text, we are taken to what we call in LEOS the document view. And you see right away on the center stage, you have the page where you will be drafting. And you see as well that this does not come fully empty. It already comes pre-filled with some citations, some dummy recitals, and some dummy articles. This information is already encoded in the template that we have chosen when we created the proposal, and this means that the drafter does not need to start from scratch. Extending on this concept, LEOS also supports a feature called import from the official journal. And what this does is allows the drafter to search on legislation that is already made public. And this legislation is presented here in formats format. And the drafter can choose whichever articles he wants to base himself when creating his new legislation. And after choosing the elements that he wishes to import, he clicks on import, and LEOS will convert from formats into a common TOZO format and will add the elements that we have selected to the proposal, to the legal act. And if you see here on the left hand side, you have the table of content that has been automatically adapted, and the elements have been automatically renumbered when they were added to our proposal. So this means that LEOS takes care of everything for the drafter, so that he needs only to focus on what is really important for him, which is the content that he will be drafting for the new legislation. If you see here, also on the left hand side, on the table of content, there is the possibility also to edit the structure of the document. So let's say that the drafter needs to add a new article, but this time he wants to start drafting it from scratch. To do so, we can open the table of content in edition mode. He can select one of the inline elements that he can choose from, so higher divisions or articles, and he can, for example, pick up one of the articles, edit between article 2 and 3, click on save, and you will see that the new added article has now become the third article, and the previous 3 and 4 articles have not been renumbered. If I close the table of content, you will see that I have this article here right away, and I can start drafting and changing it as I pleased. Also to note on the left hand side, it's the versions pane, which is the entire history of this document since it was created initially. And you see here on the recent changes, if you expand it, you will see that you have the list, the detailed list of all the changes that have been done so far. So for example, you have the annex addition that we did just before jumping into the document view. You have the import that we did from the official journal, and you have the new article that we added, the new article 3 that we added. If you open, for example, this article 3 for edition, and you start adding, for example, new information, a new paragraph, so my new paragraph, I can add a list of points, and I can extend this list of points further down. And not only that, you see that you have also on top on the CK editor all the inline edition features that you for sure are familiar already from editions like Microsoft Word, that you can make the point, for example, bold. I can make point 2 in italic. I can indent and outdent through the CK editor instead of using the keyboard shortcuts. And if I click on Save and Close, you will see that I have a new technical version for this edition that I did on Article 3. Now, let's imagine that this document has reached a point in time that is mature enough so that I can take it to a discussion on a technical meeting, for example. In order to have this snapshot created in time, I can come here to this menu and click on Save this version. And what this does is creates a major version of this document. For example, let's imagine that I call it discussion at steering committee meeting. When I click on Save, you will see that the recent changes list gets emptied and a new version 020, so a new major version, is created with a title that I just provided, and all the recent changes are now compiled under this version. And if I continue to draft my document further, for example, if I had a new table with the caption my table, for example, and I choose to have headers on the first row, if I save and close, you will see that now the new recent change will be presented here, but the major version remains untouched. And imagine that the document has evolved, so I have added a new article in between Article 2 and 3, for example. I added another one in after Article 4, and I wish to check what have changed since my version for the steering committee meeting and the latest version that is available. To do so, I can open the Compare Versions pane, which allows me to select whichever two versions that I have for this document and compare them side by side on the right side pane with track changes. So I can see that between the version that I created for the steering committee and the most recent one, I have added a new article here. My previous article got renumbered from 3 to 4. I added a new table in my Article 4, and I added another Article 5. Now, let's close the comparison pane and go back to the CK editor so that we can see what other functionalities are available for the drafter. If you recall, just a while back, I show you the simplest plugins that we have available for bolds and italics, new soft enters, but there are much more capabilities than these simple ones. For example, imagine that I want to create a reference from this point, from this paragraph on Article 7 to Article 8, for example, in a simple scenario. I can click on this icon that will open me the internal references window. And you see here that I have, again, the table of content, which enables me to choose whichever element I want. For example, let's select Article 8, this point A on paragraph 1. You see that you have here already a summary of the internal reference that will be created. And if I click on OK, you see that the reference is automatically generated. If I click on Save and Close, you will see that the reference is created. Now, imagine that I insert a new article in between Article 7 and Article 8. You'll see that the internal reference will be automatically updated because the article that before was Article 8 now has become Article 9, and the internal reference gets adapted automatically. Also, this internal references functionality is not limited just to references within the same document. If you see on the internal references pane, I have the list of all the annexes that are comprised in this proposal. And if I select, for example, Annex 2.1.1, you see again that I have the summary for this internal reference. If I click on OK, this internal reference will be also created. And just as before, if I go to Annex 2 and start adding other points, this internal reference will be automatically updated on the legal act. So far, all the functionalities that I've been presenting to you were already present in LEOS 3.0. So now it's time to jump to the new features that come with LEOS 3.1. And for that, I will start by the search and replace. But before entering into the presentation of this revamped feature altogether, and just as promised at the beginning of the presentation, I will show you first a side-by-side comparison between LEOS 3.0 search capabilities and LEOS 3.1. If you see, in LEOS 3.0, the search and replace feature was simply limited to an input field form with 2 input fields, with the capability to input the text that you want to choose to search and the text that you want to replace. And the only possibility that you have is to replace all the occurrences in one single shot. That's it. Now, in LEOS 3.1, you can see right from this image that there are much more capabilities. So instead of having the functionality in a detached pop-up, it's on an inline window. We have also an occurrences counter. We have the possibility to navigate through those occurrences. We have the possibility to match case, match the whole words, and the replace functionality with the possibility to replace a single occurrence or replace all the occurrences. So let's see this in play. Imagine that I want to search for the word accordance, and you will see that I am taken automatically to the first occurrence of this word in the text. I can navigate all over the text, and all the occurrences are highlighted. And just as I told you, I can, for example, insert a new term that I want to change accordance by, and I can put, for demo purposes, the word change literally. And if you see, if I click on replace, I will change only this first occurrence, and the counter is automatically updated. Once I'm finished with my changes, I can save this, and this will create a new technical version on the left hand side, if you see here, and I continue carrying on my search and replace feature. But now imagine that I want to search and replace several words, and I want that to be inside one single technical version. I can do that just by continue on this operation. So replace this word, replace the second occurrence. Then I can search, for example, for institutions. And I can replace by change 3, for example. And in this case, let's replace all the occurrences. And if I click on save and close now, both the second and the third search that I did will be compiled under one single search and replace new technical entry. Another feature that got revisited in LEOS 3.1 is the spell checker. So, and just as we did for the search and replace, let's first look at an image with a side-by-side comparison of the spell checker in LEOS 3.0 and the spell checker in LEOS 3.1. For the ones that know LEOS 3.0, you will recall that the spell checking functionality was simply limited to error detection, and that was it. So there was no suggestions for fixes, nothing. A simple underline on this error, and that was the end of it. In LEOS 3.1, not only the drafter gets suggestions to fix the spelling mistake, but also gets syntax error detection. For example, if you look at here, you'll see that you have that the word that should start as an uppercase because it's the first word of this sentence. And the new spell checker suggests you to do this fix. Also, if you see on the bottom right corner, you have a validation counter telling you all the occurrences that need your attention. So let's see this in action. And to do so, I will jump into LEOS that is configured for the commission. And this is just a small disclaimer. I'm doing this simply because the spell checker is not configured on the environment that I've been using to do the presentation so far. But you can rest assured that when you will download LEOS 3.1, the functionality will be exactly as I'm going to show you. So let's open Article 7. And right away, you will see that the spell checker is telling me that I have 3 points that need my attention. You see, I have 3 words underlined. On the first one, I see that the word where is misspelled. I can fix it simply by clicking on the suggestion that the spell checker gives me. I have the word manner with exactly the same case, so clicking on the suggestion will fix it. And I have the word for, that the spell checker is telling me that it's a syntax error because it's underlined in green, and is suggesting me to start the sentence by uppercase. Now, let's imagine that for some reason, I really want this sentence to start with a lowercase, and I want the spell checker to let me do that. I can simply click on ignore all, and the spell checker will validate. And you'll see that now I have a simple, beautiful checkbox telling me that my Article 7 is perfect and mistake-free. So now the only thing left to do is save and close, and that's it. So you see that the new spell checker has a much richer user experience over what was present in LEOS 3.0. Another feature that got revisited in LEOS 3.1 was the Annotations tool, which you can open clicking on this little icon on the right. But before we jump into what was changed in this regard, let me first present what this tool is all about so that the audience that is watching this presentation and is not acquainted with LEOS yet knows what this is all about. So imagine that I want to do a comment over this first paragraph on Article 7. If I select this paragraph, you will see that I have a pop-up that will appear, allowing me to do one of 3 things: insert a comment, insert a suggestion to a change of this text, or simply highlight it. Let's click first on the highlight, which is the simplest case scenario. When I click on highlight, you'll see that I have an annotation card created on the right panel, with the visibility restricted to only me, and I have a guideline connecting the annotation card to the anchor in the text where the highlight was placed. Now, imagine that the highlight is not enough for me, and I want to, in fact, insert a comment. For that, let me select first simply this sentence. For example, I click on comment, and I can insert my own comment. I can, for example, say, I do not agree with this sentence. And I can, if I really mean that I do not agree, I can select the do not agree and put it in bold. Also, if I wish to do so, I can also insert links to other pages. Just imagine that I want to justify why I do not agree. For example, I can click on here, I can insert follow this link for justification, and I can input whatever URL I want. For example, let's put http www.google.com and click on confirm. Now, when I want to make this comment, I can choose the visibility that this comment will have. I can post it to collaborators, meaning that the comment will be made public to every collaborator that is part of this proposal, or I can choose to restrict it to in this case, to all the collaborators that are drafting on this proposal, but that belong to the group DGT. Or I can even narrow it down a little bit further, and I can restrict it to a subgroup of DGT, or even a subgroup of that one. Or I can simply make the annotation private by selecting only me. So now let's create this comment as public. And you see here that you have the URL. You can simply click on it. You will have a new tabulation open with following the URL that you just inputted. The last option that we need to revisit is the suggestion. So imagine that I want to suggest a change to this sentence. I am a proactive person, and I click on suggest, and I can suggest to remove protection may, because this is redundant here. I don't know why. Or I can input further text on it. So added text here. Again, the functionality, I can post it to whoever I want. Again, let's make it post to collaborators. And you see that the suggestion is telling to remove this word and add this text. Now, I have the possibility now to accept, reject, or insert a comment to this suggestion. What is this comment? The comment is meant to justify the suggestion. So why am I proposing these changes? I can, again, just as the manner of the comment, I can insert my justification here, because it makes much more like this. And I can post this comment over the justification, and you see that they will go together. And I can choose to hide the suggestion, the justification. Now, you see that I have also two other buttons over this suggestion, accept and reject. I only have these options here because this is a presentation, but in a real case scenario, the person that suggests the change does not have the possibility to accept it. This needs to be validated by a consolidator role. But for demo purposes, let's assume that I can do it. And if I click on accept, you will see that the protection may got removed, the added text got added, and you see that you have a new technical version on the left side saying that the suggestion content was merged and the suggestion got removed. So you see, you can already see what is the added value of having this kind of annotations pane. Now, jumping to what is new over LEOS 3.0. And for that, again, let's jump to an image to summarize all of these changes. So let's start by the top. You see that you have a new button that enables you to remove the annotations pop-up altogether. So when I select a text, you see that this pop-up appears always. Now imagine that I just want to start selecting text and I don't want the pop-up to appear. I simply click on it and the pop-up will no longer appear. Also, on the filters, it was added a button to reset the existing filters, because if you imagine that you selected, I want to see comments, I want to see a specific group, I want to see a specific author, and I want to do full text search as well. On LEOS 3.0, if I wanted to reset this, I had to clean each of the filters one by one. Now, the task is made simpler by clicking on the clear filter. You see that you have the possibility to justify suggestions, which I have just presented you a while back. And we have the new bulk actions over the annotations. What is this? Let's see this at work. Imagine that I have, let me enable this again. Imagine that I have suggestion to remove the word added. I have another suggestion down below saying that 1.25% is not enough. I want 150. And I have another one suggesting to applicable to all scenarios. So you see that we have already 3 suggestions. Imagine that I want to accept all of them, and imagine that instead of 3 you have 50, and you want to act on all of them at once. On LEOS 3.0 this was simply not possible. You had to go one by one and do whatever you wanted to do with it. Now we have the possibility on LEOS 3.1 to select all the annotations and do a bulk action. So you can either reject all the suggestions, accept all the suggestions, or delete all the annotations. Let's click on the accept button. You see that you have a warning telling you that you will be accepting 3 selected suggestions, even though you have 5 annotations selected, but only 3 of them are suggestions. If you choose to proceed, you get a feedback saying that all suggestions were accepted. They are removed from here, and you have a new technical version once again saying that all the suggestions were merged, and this was done under a single new technical version. Also, and as you have seen already, another change that came in LEOS 3.1 was the possibility to add rich text while creating comments. Simply in LEOS 3.0 was the only possibility that you had was to input simple text in a very simple text box. Now you can, as you saw before, create bold text, italic text, or even insert links to other URLs. One last point that I want to make is that on LEOS 3.1 we have updated the version of ref2link library that we use. And what is ref2link? This is a library that works on client side and detects whenever the drafter inserts an URL to an existing legislation in Erlex and creates the URL for it automatically. So, for example, let me show you this image. Imagine that the user inserts the words directives 2006/48/EC. The library will detect automatically that this is a link to a directive, and will wrap it around automatically in a URL. So what has changed in this new library? It got enhanced for false positives. For example, if in the previous version, if you had regulation 3/1958, it will give you a link to the wrong Erlex legislation, and on the new version, it goes to the correct one. So this is something that is incorporated in LEOS, even though it's not developed directly by us. As a hand note, I want to point out also other features that got improved quite a bit in LEOS 3.1, but that are not directly demoable. One of them was that we touched the very heart of the application, and we replaced the core library that handles XML, and we migrated from VTD to a Xerces lib. This got us the opportunity not only to revisit the entire architecture of the application and refactor it quite a bit to make it a lot more modular and a lot more scalable. Also, we improved quite a lot on the code coverage and the test coverage. And ultimately, all of this refactoring resulted not only in a better architecture, but also in a performance improvement. So, but this is all things that you can experience once you try to experience LEOS 3.1 by yourselves. So this about concludes this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that we'll see you on our upcoming webinars. So thank you very much on the behalf of LEOS team. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and hope to see you soon. See you.